For decades, people called it the perfect community, a peaceful place, a religious colony, a model society.
But former members would later describe something very different.
Behind the fences, they claimed children disappeared, prisoners were hidden, and anyone who questioned the leader risked punishment.
The leader was a German preacher named Paul Schäfer. He promised faith. He promised order. He promised salvation.
So how did a community praised for decades become one of South America's darkest scandals?
And more importantly, how did nobody stop it? Open the file. SATC file number 003. Paul Schäfer. The perfect community.
In 1961, Paul Schäfer arrived in Chile with a group of German followers. They settled on a remote piece of land. They called it Colonia Dignidad.
To outsiders, it looked impressive. The colony had farms, schools, hospitals. It appeared organized, disciplined, successful.
Visitors often left with the same impression. They believed they had seen a model community.
The colony even welcomed guests. People saw clean buildings, productive farms, and smiling residents.
At first glance, it looked like a success story.
But model communities don't usually surround themselves with fences or armed guards.
And life inside the colony was very different from what visitors were allowed to see.
Former members later described strict rules, constant supervision, and a leader who demanded absolute obedience.
For years, most outsiders never questioned what was happening behind those fences. And that may have been exactly what Paul Schäfer wanted.
Because investigators would eventually discover that the adults weren't the only ones living under his control.
Former members described a childhood unlike anything outsiders imagined. Children were separated from their parents. They lived under strict control.
Many were raised in group dormitories. Contact with their families was often limited. Daily life followed strict rules, and obedience was expected at all times.
Former members later described an atmosphere of fear. They believed nearly every aspect of their lives was being monitored.
For some children, the colony became the only world they knew.
According to multiple testimonies, Paul Schäfer demanded complete obedience. Questioning authority was not tolerated.
And those who challenged the system often feared the consequences.
For years, rumors circulated about what was happening inside the colony. But very few people were willing to speak publicly.
Investigators would later hear similar accounts from multiple former members, and a disturbing pattern began to emerge.
But the children weren't the colony's only victims. Another secret was hidden behind those fences.
A secret connected to political prisoners, and possibly to one of the most powerful men in Chile.
By the 1970s, Chile was under military rule. General Augusto Pinochet had taken power.
Across the country, political opponents were being arrested. Some disappeared, and many were never seen again.
Years later, former prisoners began describing a place they claimed they would never forget. Colonia Dignidad.
According to their testimonies, some detainees were transported to the colony, far from public view.
The location was isolated, surrounded by fences, and heavily controlled.
For investigators, the allegations were disturbing, because the colony had always presented itself as a religious community.
But former prisoners described something very different. They claimed interrogations took place there, and that torture was used.
As more testimonies emerged, a troubling picture began to form.
This was no longer just a story about a secretive colony. It was becoming a story about political repression.
And that raised an even bigger question. If these allegations were true, who was protecting Paul Schäfer? as investigators followed the evidence. They kept running into the same question. How had Paul Schafer avoided accountability for so long?
The answer may have been hidden in his relationship with the military regime.
Over the years, multiple investigations and testimonies pointed toward cooperation between the colony and elements of the dictatorship.
If the allegations were true, both sides had something to gain.
The regime gained an isolated location, a place hidden from public scrutiny, a place where questions rarely reached the outside world.
And Paul Schafer appeared to gain something equally valuable: protection.
Former members spoke. Former prisoners spoke. Journalists asked questions. But Schäfer remained free.
Which led investigators to another troubling possibility. Someone may have been helping him stay one step ahead.
And when authorities finally moved to arrest Paul Schafer, they discovered something shocking. He had vanished.
This wasn't the first time Paul Schafer had run from serious allegations. Years earlier, he had already left Germany.
And now, investigators feared he had done it again.
By the late 1990s, pressure was mounting. Former members were speaking publicly. Journalists were asking questions. And authorities were getting closer.
For the first time in decades, it appeared Paul Schafer might finally face justice.
But when authorities moved to arrest him, he was gone.
No public sighting. No official explanation. No trace of where he had gone.
Investigators suspected he had help, because disappearing that quickly was no easy task.
Someone may have warned him. Someone may have helped him escape. But proving it would be another challenge entirely.
As months turned into years, the search expanded beyond Chile.
And soon, the hunt for Paul Schafer would become international.
As the years passed, rumors began to spread. Some claimed Schafer was still in Chile.
Others believed he had crossed the border and disappeared somewhere else in South America.
Investigators followed countless leads. Most of them went nowhere.
But every failed lead created a new question. How was he staying hidden for so long?
The man once known throughout Colonia Dignidad had become a ghost.
Meanwhile, former members continued speaking out, and pressure on authorities continued to grow.
Years passed, but investigators refused to close the file.
Then came a breakthrough. A lead investigators couldn't ignore.
For the first time in years, they believed they knew where Paul Schafer was hiding. Paul Schafer was finally in custody, but many questions remained unanswered. The lead pointed investigators toward Argentina. 4 years, Schäfer had managed to stay hidden. But that was about to change.
Authorities began coordinating across borders. They believed the search was finally coming to an end.
Then came the operation. Investigators moved in.
After years on the run, Paul Schafer had finally been located.
In 2005, the man who once appeared untouchable was arrested.
The capture made international headlines. But for many former members, the arrest was only the beginning.
Because now investigators faced a different challenge, uncovering everything that had happened inside Colonia Dignidad.
And some of those answers would shock even experienced investigators.
Even after Paul Schafer's arrest, the case was far from over.
Investigators answered many questions, but not all of them.
Some former members still wonder how, after years of searching, Paul Schafer was finally behind bars.
But for many former members, the arrest alone wasn't enough.
They wanted answers. They wanted accountability, and they wanted the truth to be heard.
In court, investigators presented evidence gathered over decades. Witnesses came forward, and former victims finally had a chance to speak.
The man who once controlled every aspect of life inside the colony was now facing justice.
In 2006, Schäfer was convicted on multiple charges. The sentence marked a historic moment in the case.
For many survivors, it was the first sign that the system had finally begun to listen.
But even then, not every question had been answered.
Paul Schafer died in prison in 2010. But the story of Colonia Dignidad did not end with his death. Even after the convictions, some questions never disappeared.
Investigators uncovered many secrets, but not all of them.
Some former members still wonder how much remains hidden.
Others continue asking who knew, who looked away, and who helped protect the colony for so many years.
Because cases like this rarely end with a single arrest. They leave behind unanswered questions.
And sometimes, the most important answers are the ones investigators never find.
The perfect community. That was the promise.
But behind the fences, a very different story was waiting to be discovered. If you enjoy South American mysteries, subscribe, because our next file begins with a single question. Who wanted Tim Lopez silenced? We'll open that file together.